Do you ever need to vent? There's certainly times in our lives when we can experience such stress and frustration that eventually it just boils up to the top and we need to let it all out. Maybe we can think of a tea kettle on a stove. As that water gets warm, as it boils, eventually it emits an audible noise, doesn't it? So too, at times we can vent our frustrations. You might wonder though, for us as Christians, is that really proper for us to do? After all, aren't Christians supposed to be peaceful and patient at all times? Well, in Psalm 13, we hear David venting when he says this: "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I experience worries in my soul, sorrow in my heart every day? How long will my enemy tower over me?" These "how long" expressions, David is really venting his stress, venting his frustration over his situation as he is enduring so many problems, so much trouble at the current time. We maybe can think for ourselves, yes, there is times when we do need to vent. But we should also take King David's advice in Psalm 4, verse 4, when he says this: "You may be upset, but do not sin." Makes the point that sometimes those emotions are going to be there and sometimes they're going to boil over, yet in the midst of that emotion, do not sin. And how might we sin when we are filled with so much emotion, when we are venting? Well, one way that we might sin is by cursing or maybe using profanities. Certainly that isn't good for us to do. Another way might be to respond in violence against someone or to destroy property. But especially we should be careful in the midst of our venting, when we are feeling so frustrated, to not use that opportunity to accuse God, to blame God for not acting the way that we think He should act, for not loving us. King David goes on to say this: "Look at me, answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, so I do not sleep in death, so my enemy does not say, 'I have overcome him,' so my foes do not rejoice when I fall." We see David turns away from his audible frustration to prayer, as he's praying to God to rescue him, to save his life, and not just for his own good, but also so that his enemies don't triumph, those wicked men that seek to destroy him. For the sake of God's justice, he cries out to him. And finally, he says this: "But I trust in your mercy. My heart rejoices in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has accomplished his purpose for me." You see, not only does David cry out in prayer to the Lord, but he also confesses his faith. He confesses his faith that God is a God of mercy, and he is the God of his salvation, and that he's working his good purpose for David. What a good example we have in King David, as he is filled with so much emotion at that present time, as he has to vent his frustrations, but in the midst of it, not seeking to sin against God by accusing him of wrongdoing, but rather turning to him in prayer, asking that God would help in that moment of his frustration. Also, trusting in God, that God is a God of mercy and salvation, and that God in his own good time is going to rescue him. We too can experience such distress and frustration because of so many troubles in our own lives. But it's good at that time, though we may vent our frustrations, to be careful not to sin, but especially to pray to God and to trust that he is the God who loves us and has shown mercy, is the God of our salvation, working everything for his good purpose, ultimately to bring us to be with him forever in heaven. Amen.
The goal of Peace Devotions is to share the peace of Jesus with the world. You can support our ministry by sharing these videos, praying for our pastors, and donating at els.org/donate.